Concert Close: Decreasing Carbon Footprint by Reducing Truck Rolls and Travel Time for Multi-Site Projects. Presented by Concert Technologies. This video will examine Concert Close, the green IT deployment program that eliminates truck rolls and greatly reduces carbon emissions. You will also learn about how the local multi-service deployment method, along with other factors, contribute to the environmentally friendly technology rollout. Telephony Online published an article in May 2009 on Green Telecom. If a large wireless provider with a fleet of 1,000 trucks was able to eliminate 3 truck rolls a week, that would represent a savings of 3.3 million pounds of carbon dioxide emissions. In national and international technology rollouts, the number of truck rolls necessary for the project has a great impact on that project's green efficiency. A high number of truck rolls leads to a high rate of fuel consumption and a large number of carbon emissions. Reducing the number of truck rolls by utilizing the local multi-service deployment method lessens the need for fuel and therefore reduces the carbon footprint of that project. The local multi-service deployment method leverages the advantages of utilizing technicians close to the site, capable of providing multiple services, allowing the technology rollout company to minimize the number of trucks dispatched. Aside from providing the most convenience to the end user, this efficient deployment method reduces fuel consumption and lessens carbon monoxide emissions. The U.S. Department of Transportation's Bureau of Transportation Statistics discovered that the typical 20-gallon tank work van, averaging 18 miles per gallon, burns on average of nearly 692 gallons of fuel per year and emits 9.29 grams per mile of carbon monoxide. There are 3 primary factors that contribute to the massive consumption of fuel and emissions related to multi-site technology deployments. The first factor is not having established local partnerships. The typical technology rollout company will dispatch the closest local technician to each site location. However, most companies do not have the qualified partnerships established prior to a deployment, especially in rural areas. Thus, they can often deploy the closest resource they have available, anywhere from 75 to 200 miles or more from the site. Because the typical rollout company's primary concern is to complete the job for their customer, they give little concern to the green effects of the dispatch distance. Thus, the more travel distance is increased, the more fuel is used and emissions expended to complete the work. This also increases overall project costs due to an increased time required for travel of the initial install and maintenance services. The second factor is not consolidating multiple services into fewer truck rolls. Traditional service companies do not combine different technologies with varying requirements into a single or minimized number of truck rolls. This results in individual services deployed by individual truck rolls. This increased number of truck rolls skyrockets fuel consumption and associated emissions for a single job site. The results are exponentially increased for multi-site deployments that span large geographical areas. The final factor is not employing multi-service technicians. In a similar fashion, the typical technology rollout company will dispatch a single local technician from one location. However, a separate technician providing a different service will be deployed from an altogether different business location. Thus, separate vehicles are deployed. For instance, a demarc extension may be provided by one local resource. However, the equipment installation will be provided by another resource. This again increases the amount of fuel consumed, as well as harmful emissions. The Concert Close Green IT Deployment Program was developed by Concert Technologies to provide a solution to increasing environmental concerns. This program reduces fuel consumption and associated emissions by setting a maximum one-way travel distance for each truck roll at 20 miles for urban areas and 40 miles for rural areas. Multiple services are provided on a single truck roll, therefore limiting the number of truck rolls necessary to complete the project. The following reference diagrams demonstrate the importance of a green IT deployment program and compare the impact of distance traveled as well as truck rolls on the environment. Under the Concert Close program, a 40-mile dispatch results in the lowest rate of fuel consumption compared with other technology rollout companies. Some companies without a green IT deployment program in place, and therefore no distance limitation threshold, will have a 75, 100, 150, or even a 200-mile dispatch each way, and consequently will consume a large amount of fuel. As a result of the massive rate of fuel consumption, the technology rollout companies without a green IT deployment program will produce large amounts of carbon emissions. The Concert Close Green IT Deployment Program minimizes fuel emissions due to the distance limitation threshold. Fuel consumption correlates to the amount of services available on a single truck roll. Many companies without a green IT deployment program in place will use multiple technicians, each offering limited services, and as a result will require multiple truck rolls. The Concert Close program minimizes truck rolls by utilizing the local multi-service deployment method, ultimately resulting in a reduced rate of fuel consumption. Resulting from the minimal amount of fuel consumed, a company offering multiple services in one truck roll reduces carbon emissions a substantial amount when compared to the companies that deploy technicians in multiple truck rolls. At an estimated 5,000 rural dispatch jobs per year, fuel usage from dispatches without a distance limitation threshold are exponentially higher than when considered for each single job. To minimize fuel consumption, the technology rollout company must have the resources in place to set a distance limitation, or the excess miles traveled adds up after multiple jobs. Fuel emissions at an estimated 5,000 rural dispatch jobs can become astronomical when distances greater than the suggested distance limitation threshold are traveled per job. To reduce emissions, the technology rollout company must keep in mind the relation of fuel consumption and emissions when compared to distance traveled. To avoid excessive fuel consumption and emissions, the technology rollout company must consolidate technologies into fewer deployments with a distance threshold set at 40 miles. To meet that dispatch mileage standard, the company must use a web-based software application that determines the closest resource to the site. Finally, to minimize truck rolls, the local multi-service deployment method is the most efficient method to dispatch technicians. Employing these techniques will allow the technology rollout company to deploy technologies in an environmentally responsible manner. For more videos about the technology rollout system of methodologies and nationwide and international technology rollouts, visit us online at www.concerttech.com. Select Video Library under the Resources tab.